We have the pleasure to have today with us to open the second day Mr. Nikos Papaioannou, Deputy Minister for Higher Education, which I call to the floor. Please, Minister.
Good morning to everyone, Your Excellency, Ambassador of France in Greece, dear professors, dear President of Institut Pasteur, dear the Dean of Rector of University of West Macedonia, in general, dear colleagues, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and a genuine pleasure to welcome you to Greece-France Forum on Research and Innovation. Today's forum takes place at a particularly significant moment for the relations between our two countries, following the signing of the Action Plan for Cooperation in Higher Education and Scientific Research during President Emmanuel Macron's visit to Greece in April. This Action Plan marked a new chapter in our bilateral relationship and reaffirmed our commitment to strengthening cooperation across strategic sectors. It confirmed a shared belief: investment in knowledge, science and innovation is an investment in our future prosperity, resilience and strategic autonomy. And there could hardly be a better time for such a discussion. Across Europe, we are facing profound transformations. We are advancing the green transition while strengthening our competitiveness. We are embracing the opportunities of artificial intelligence while ensuring that technology's progress serves our societies and our values. We are investing in energy security and digital infrastructure while seeking greater resilience in an increasingly complex international environment. Greece and France are well placed to contribute to this effort. Our scientists already work closely together within the European higher education area and the European research area. They interact in the European University Alliances, in Horizon Europe programs, and in a wide range of bilateral initiatives. At this point, I would like to inform you that yesterday I was in Ioannina, in the University of Ioannina, and we had a meeting with representatives from all Greek universities, 16th among 24th, who belong to several European alliances. And it was great that in each other European alliance, many French universities belong to them, and we have a very good collaboration, especially in the digitalization of, in the era of digitalization in higher education. And additionally, we have very good discussion as Greek authorities and rectors of each other university in the field of creating of European diploma, and secondly, about the micro-credentials which we need to enter to our programs. These collaborations have produced excellent scientific results, strengthened institutional ties, and created opportunities for young researchers, students, and entrepreneurs. Our task today is to build on this success, to identify new areas for cooperation, to encourage new partnerships, to ensure that scientific excellence is translated into innovation, growth, and tangible benefits for our citizens. After all, the future will not be shaped by countries working alone. It will be shaped by countries that choose to work together, share knowledge, and invest in common goals. This is exactly what brings us together today. I'm confident that this forum will be productive and inspiring. I look forward to the ideas, collaborations, and initiatives that will emerge from the discussions. And finally, I would like to thank all the colleagues from the French ambassador in Athens, because all the period before, we have very strong and very close collaboration in order to go further, in order to go more inside in the Greek and French collaboration in the higher education. And for this reason, I would like to express my deeply thanks for these great discussions and collaboration. Thank you so much, and I hope next year or in the 1st of October, we will meet each other in France in order to go further, not step by step, but more quickly. And congratulations again for this great event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for these kind words. So now it's my pleasure to call the panel on health. Yes, so Mr. Ioannis Kotsiopoulos, our moderator, Georges Patrinos, the director of the Institut Pasteur Hellénique, Alexandra Beletsi, patient director for Servier, Kostas Mariaskis from SEIV, and Stathis Chorianopoulos, the CEO of Biomérieux. Great conversation ahead. Thank you.
One, two. Good. So, good morning, everyone. We've just heard from the Minister a fitting start, given his own background in health. Thank you, Minister. My name is Ioannis Kotsiopoulos, and I used to be the General Secretary of the Ministry of Health, and now I'm the founder of a new fund in health tech. And above all, I have the pleasure to moderate this morning's roundtable. So, before we begin, let me congratulate the Institut Français and Matthew for his invitation to moderate this session and the work, obviously, that we've done together to pull this together. So our theme this morning is Innovation for Better Health, working towards personalized medicine and public health innovation. Two ideas that are often treated as separate conversations, but personalized medicine asks one question: the right treatment, the right patient at the right time. And public health innovations ask another question. How do we make sure that everyone, everywhere, not in just some places and in somewhere, has access to these personalized treatments? And these are not competing goals. They are two halves of the same ambition. And nowhere is that ambition more relevant in the Franco-Hellenic cooperation, in pharma, in medical technology, in deep tech, and the transfer of knowledge between our two ecosystems. So, to cut a very long story short, I would like to welcome this exceptional panel. Alexandra Beletsi, Medical and Patient Affairs Director of Servier, who brings the pharma industry perspective. Georges Patrinos, Director General of the Institut Pasteur, who brings the research perspective. Stathis Chorianopoulos, CEO of Biomérieux, who brings the diagnostic perspective, and Kostas Mariaskis, the General Secretary of SEIV, who will kind of bridge everything together and will have the medical technology and the digital health perspective. And let me start the questions from Alexandra. How do we better connect basic research with industry in Greece? And innovation is not only about discovery, and it's about the execution as well. Alexandra.
Thank you. Allow me first to thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity to participate in this panel. It is a really honor for me to join such esteemed speakers and be part of this discussion. The question that you said is very important. Execution is the main question because innovation, as you said, is not only discovery. What we have to think from the beginning is what we have here in Greece. And we have a lot of things. We have a strong scientific base, excellent researchers, and high-quality academic output. So the real challenge is how we can translate this into innovation that reaches the patient. From an industry perspective, what I can see is that we are missing a systemic pathway, and we need to move from a fragmented approach to a continuous model. And which is this model is to connect research with startups, the development, clinical trials, and finally, to give this new health technology to the patients, to have the patient access. How we can do that? This requires earlier and more structured interaction between academia and the industry, and not only at the end of the process, which is the clinical research, but from the beginning. We have some examples in Greece, and Professor Patrinos will share with us, but we have to have the opportunity to scale this into a system where innovation is not accidental, but it is repeatable.
So, to Professor Patrinos, so then what is missing institutionally to carry scientific excellence through to industry partnership and clinical application?
Yeah. Also, please allow me to thank you for the invitation for this. It's really a much needed forum. It's great being part of this roundtable, which is about personalized medicine. It's a field that I work for more than 20 years. Interestingly, this is not just research. It is something that is being happened in the clinic today, as we speak. And as I mentioned, I have been a part of the biggest clinical trial for pharmacogenomics, for genome-guided therapeutics, as we say for the lay public, in the world, including more than 7,000 patients. And it clearly showed that genome-guided therapeutics can not only improve the quality of life of the patients by minimizing toxicity and improving drug efficacy, but can also contribute towards reducing the overall healthcare expenditure. And just to show how close we are to get this to the clinic, I have here in my pocket a small plastic card, which is something that you all know as your ATM cards, right? So this card contains my genetic profile as far as genome-guided therapeutics is concerned. So all I need to do is need to scan this card, this QR code, and then the clinician can simply read through the guidance that he can see in his mobile phone or his desktop computer what is the best dose that he should prescribe to me. So the Institut Pasteur, which is the oldest biomedical research institute in Greece, with the newly established laboratory of innovative therapeutics and personalized medicine, can clearly deliver these genetic testing services for genome-guided therapeutics for Greece. We have the proof of concept already. So all we need now is to get the ball rolling through the ministries involved, and of course through the newly built infrastructure. We are literally building another Pasteur with the Resilience Fund in Greece, which we're going to finish next week, literally next week, and we expect the official launch in September. So this is these are the first statements I have to say for this part.
It's really exciting, and
yep.
we hope to be there next year and possibly celebrate the success of having another new Pasteur.
Delighted to have you.
I would like to ask Mr. Chorianopoulos about the in vitro diagnostics. They have a tremendous value in bringing and controlling healthcare spend. They bring a lot of value to the healthcare system, and I was wondering how the Greek and the French frameworks they quantify the long-term value of in vitro diagnostic in fewer ICU stays, in outbreaks prevented, and all this value that they will bring to the health system?
Really, thank you very much, Ioannis, for the opportunity me to answer to this question. If you believe on it, I would like to suggest you to become Minister of Health, because what you said, it is really very nice. And yes, indeed, the reality says that in vitro diagnostics is used in around 70% of the clinicians' medical decisions. 70. 7 out of 10 patients, when they will listen from their medical doctor about their treatment, following what Alexandra said, before this, an in vitro diagnostic value has to be generated to help them to take the correct decision. And by saying this, I would like to share with the audience that we are serving the 70% of the clinicians' decisions, and we have the 3% of the total healthcare expenditure. This is, in a typical Greek word, this is a paradox. Okay. And what is happening? When a physician, a clinician, is in front of a potential septic episode, a multi-drug resistant bacteria, a probable outbreak, then at this moment, the clinician is requesting to have exactly as you described, Ioannis, in your introduction, the correct result on the correct time for the correct specimen. And there is the moment that we are appearing. Now, what is happening? Quite often, the model is trying to evaluate our values with some metrics that are not helping a lot. What I mean that our value, not the medical value, the financial value, should be measured with the expenses that never happen, with what we saved from the health system. What I mean, we can give a result instead of 2 to 3 days in few minutes. What does it mean? That probably means a bed in an intensive care unit free 2 days earlier. We could give an answer in few minutes, helping the physician to prescribe the correct treatment to the patient, not doing empiric therapies, and to give the correct therapy without putting the patient in an adventure and the health system in expenses without a value. To conclude, what we would like to say is that both countries, France and Greece, we are facing a huge pressure on the health economics to be reduced. Yes, we understand. Yes, we are here. Yes, we have a proposal. The better, as Alexandra mentioned before in her initial answer, and I'm fully aligned with what she said, we have to see some pathways. We have to see the ways that we are using the tools and to create a more value-based, medical value-based decision tree than just economical decisions without being able to evaluate the total health cost. And to conclude, from my side, Italy, I'm based in Italy, we can see that Italy is facing the same challenges, but also Greece and France, we have the same needs, and we could collaborate there to give the correct example.
Great opening, Mr. Chorianopoulos, and I think there are a lot of takeaways to think about. How do we move to a more value-based healthcare system, not only in Greece, but throughout Europe? I think that's a question that nobody has really answered yet to a great extent. And I think the other question that we haven't really answered is to what extent genomics and precision medicine could be used in the future, and what needs to happen, Kostas, in Greece for this kind of precision approach to take place and move from a leading example, which is right now, to a mainstream clinical practice as in vitro diagnostics.
Yes.
Are we there yet?
Thank you again for being a participant of this panel representing the industry of biomedical companies. Yes, the genomics are a great strategy that must come in our country, and there are many aspects for that. First of all, Greece must benefit of coordinate a plan for the genomics. Which genomic tests should be available, and especially which should be reimbursed, because the reimbursement from the well-known EOP is something that must be done, and we are still waiting about it. And also hospital and private laboratory must be funded from this technology and bioinformation. The infrastructure of genomic must require accreditable molecular diagnostic laboratories and next generation sequencing use genomic database that are very important, as our colleague from Pasteur mentioned, and all those factors has an importance for clinical decision that must be taken following the genomic results. And genomic results must be integrated in electronic health record, in the record that now are already almost ready to be fulfilled. And also we need education of the clinician, education of the pathologists, of the bioinformatics. So all those things must be done, and must be done quickly. The data also must be stronger privacy protection. The GDPR must be fulfilled, and finally, which test should have a priority. Certainly, the cancer are one that almost all of us we know, but it's the cardiology that are coming, the diabetes are coming, and many other. So I believe that we have a lot of things to do, and we must start growing very fastly for this direction.
So Kostas, I take it's not wishful thinking. Things are happening right now. Yeah. And from your answer, I take it that we're not there yet, but things are happening, and very soon it's not going to be just a leading example. It will be mainstream practice. I think it's connected to the previous discussion about value-based healthcare. How do we make sure that we bring all these new technologies, all these new innovations in genomics, precision medicine, and also in vitro diagnostics and research, and make sure these are kind of available to everyone. This is about, the question about public health. It's not about having a few patients accessing all these nice technologies. It's about making sure that everyone has access to these technologies. And one of the things that we want to bring into the discussion today, especially because this is a forum where it opens up the dialogue between France and Greece, is how can we learn from the ecosystems that are built around innovation? And I'll bring the discussion back to Alexandra, because Servier has a role to play here. And what can we learn about building ecosystems and making sure that the co-location of academia, startups, pharma, VCs, I would say, because I'm representing a VC, could support early stage innovation? And is there a good practice that you could share with us?
Thank you so much for the question. Indeed, Servier, as you may know or may not know, it's a different pharmaceutical company. She is governed by a non-profit organization. So this means that invests a lot in R&D. And having said that, I will share with you the example of Paris-Saclay. Paris-Saclay is an area in France which is considered to be not just a research hub, but a fully integrated ecosystem where academia, startups, and industry coexist and interact daily. Servier some years ago made a strategic choice to embed itself within this ecosystem through its R&D institute, and particularly through other initiatives like the Partners Incubator, which supports early-stage biotech startups. The important point is not the infrastructure itself. It's the role that the industry could play in such ecosystems, supporting early innovation and not only late-stage development, connecting startups with scientific expertise, development capabilities, and potential clinical pathways, creating proximity between researchers, entrepreneurs, and pharma teams. And this gives the opportunity to reduce the time between discovery and development and increases the likelihood that innovation actually could reach the clinical trials. For Greece, the lesson is clear. I think you have already initiated that, but we have to go a step forward. We need to connect also to the European ecosystem, to connect maybe Greek ecosystems with the French ecosystem and universities and enterprises, and create similar collaborated environments locally, even in a smaller scale.
I will insist a little bit on the ecosystem building with Professor Patrinos, because the Institut Pasteur has a huge role to play in building ecosystems, because you're leading research institute. And what kind of institutional partnerships do you foresee between the industry, the VCs and the startup ecosystem? And what kind of partnerships would accelerate the translation of Pasteur's research into clinical and commercial application?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm going to base my response based on what Kostas and Stathis mentioned before. I often make a metaphor of personalized medicine, and that's something that comes from Greece, always. You know, democracy, even personalized medicine. Hippocrates said it's more important to focus on the person that suffers the disease rather than focus on the disease that the person suffers. It's the textbook definition of personalized medicine. So, in ancient Greek temple, we start from the bottom, which is the knowledge, and we move it to the clinical implementation, which is the rooftop. And then we need pillars. The first pillar is infrastructure. We heard about personalized medicine, infrastructure, genomic, next generation sequencing. I would say point of care, because we need to bring these services to the public. And we need point of care. We have islands. We have isolate areas, mountainous region, ethnic isolates. So we need to make this test available to everyone, because this is what it should be our focus. We need health economics. We need reimbursement. And we showed, for example, in our own clinical study, that not only we improve the quality of life of the patients, but we reduce to half the hospitalization days, the adverse drug reactions, the number of deaths, the polypharmacy that touches upon elderly patients. We need ethics. For example, you should not base your reimbursement application on a study that you run on yourself. There's something that it's called conflict of interest, right? And that's something that the ministry should be very vigilant, okay? Not reimbursing everything. We should be very selective on what we reimburse. We need to educate healthcare professionals so that they believe when we tell them that they should reduce the dose or should change the drug. And last but not least, we should raise genomics awareness to the public. So all these are major pillars. How Pasteur would help? Our study focused on psychiatry. Psychiatry patients in Greece is 1.5 million diagnosed patients, let alone the numbers that are not diagnosed. I would say half of Greece's population, okay? 150K with serious psychosis, okay? So we have shown that by individualizing drug dosing, you can cut in half the healthcare expenditure. So what is needed? We have the clinical evidence, we have the economic evidence. We need, if I may say, political will. We should make the politicians hear that at the end of the day, it's going to be beneficial for them to show that based on their own innovative intervention, they have improved the quality of life of society, because public health, this is what we're all talking about, and at the same time, save money, because this approach, at least for psychiatry in Greece, is cost saving. And of course, you understand, being Secretary General of the Ministry of Health, how we can use this money to reroute them to another innovative therapeutic intervention, or even to make it available for education, for defense. We have a very strong alliance now between Greece and France for defense, and other directions. So this is how the Pasteur could help make these tests available to the public, having a brand, a very strong brand of being the oldest biomedical research institute in Greece, and of course quality in an ethic compliant fashion.
I think you raised a really important topic about democratizing access to health. And I think sometimes we do forget the populations that we have in Greece that are in rural areas, in islands, and we often, we often forget that people there, they don't have the same access to healthcare as people living in Kolonaki, in the city center. And I was wondering, how can decentralized points of care testing help? So the question is for Mr. Chorianopoulos, to build the same standard of care across Greece, independently of where people live. Can this be a tool to democratize access to healthcare? And could we benefit from best examples from France, or is this used somewhere else that we could potentially benefit from?
Thank you for the question, and I would like to say that I feel much more optimistic when I heard the Professor Patrinos saying the half of what I had in my mind. Thank you, Professor, because I think that there is a very nice alignment in what you said versus the reality that we see. Now, regarding the question, Ioannis, we are strong believers that geography around the planet should never dictate the destiny of the patient. And this, for Biomérieux, for many companies, I don't want to say just for Biomérieux, for us is a vision. Geography, geographical isolation, not to dictate the patient experience. Now, what are we doing? Alexandra recently spoke about investments in R&D. We feel extremely pleased because in our industry, in the industry of in vitro diagnostics, we are investing more than 12% of the sales on R&D. Why? To give an answer to this challenge. And our vision is to decrease the distance between the test, the clinical, the lab diagnosis to the patient, to decrease this distance. How are we doing this? To give you some examples, sepsis. In few years ago, as I said before, 2 to 3 days to have an answer. Now, few minutes, less than 20 minutes. Even in an isolated place, even without specialized technicians. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can. Technology developed solutions that we can equip with the point of care, as Professor Patrinos said. The point of care setting, we can equip isolated areas, islands, mountains, many difficult locations. And like this, what is happening? What is our vision? First of all, is for the patient. The patient to be treated in his territory, fast, with an accurate way, without traveling, without being impacted himself and his family, plus his activities. On top of this, for the healthcare system, much less expensive to drive, instead of driving the patient to the main city, transportation plus time plus, last point, the treatment is much faster, much more accurate, and in all these nice things, there are some but. And the but are, first of all, we need the authorities to create the frame for a point-of-care testing. Because in many European countries, France included, the frame is not very clear. Here we need the clarity. We need the regulations. Second point, what we need connectivity. Systems to connect all these point-of-care isolated areas to some centralized areas, because we have to monitor, the authorities, they have to monitor the quality of the execution, the quality of the given result, and to conclude, we need the government, the authorities, to create the frame in order all these new technologies, the point-of-care technologies, to have the opportunity to maximize the benefits for the isolated areas. Yes, we are there. France and Greece, we have many things to share between us, many best practices. We can see, also when I'm listening to this panel, we can see that all of us, we speak the same language. Now what is missing? The last step. And I'm very happy to be here because probably this is a first step to move to this direction. Thank you.
Just because I'm curious, I'll ask something which is completely unscripted. How would this framework that you are describing would look like? What is actually missing? So this is from my previous hat as a general secretary.
Good question. What is missing? I can give you a very concrete answer. Is who owns the validity of the answer? With the current legal frame, you have to have a laboratory with a lab director, person being accountable to sign the answer of an IVD test. In an isolated area, where the point-of-care instrument is installed, this person most probably is not existing. For this reason, we spoke about a network to connect all these instruments with some centralized labs in order there in the centralized labs to exist this person accountable to validate the result in order the result to generate the medical value that the patient is requesting to have. It's not difficult. It's something that is more a political or
regulatory.
Exactly.
So we, this is common, and we'll come across the same topic again and again as innovation and technologies progress. What we realize is that our regulatory framework needs to be improved, and we saw that. And yesterday we had a big event about hospital at home, which we started a few years ago. And the first thing we realized was that we didn't have the legal framework to do it. It's the
exactly.
Same. It's the same. And I think coming to Kostas, we'll realize when we go into wearables and digital health and all these kind of new technologies that will come in, and we'll move the paradigm from treating somebody in a hospital to be able to continuously monitor a patient at home. Are we there yet, Kostas? And what kind of infrastructure do we need to put together to make sure that we take full benefit of all these wearable devices, these kind of new digital health tools that they arise every day? I mean, the rate of innovation is amazing, especially now that we have AI, and it helps a lot the development of these tools. So what needs to be built in order to be able to support this transition from the current paradigm to a future paradigm?
Yeah, certainly the innovation in our sector is incredible. We have the biggest rate of any other section of electronic, of cars, of space, etc. The healthcare is especially the biomedical has the highest and the biggest range of innovation. And especially the continuous care, as you mentioned, is growing. Devices that monitor glucose, heart rhythm, blood pressure, sleep, etc., are continuously in the market. First of all, the requirement is to have a national digital health platform, is what my colleague mentioned before, both of them, where we can receive the data from diabetes, for example, CGMs, for blood pressure, for apnea and sleep device, etc. This also should be created. This will create value for the clinicians that could have access to this data, and this data should be transferred to the health record, as I mentioned before, of each individual, and being integrated between hospitals, clinic, pharmacy, and primary care also. There is also an important point is the reimbursement for those remote care. Health system generally pay for visit and procedure, not for remote monitoring or digital consultation. So this is something that without reimbursement, clinicians are not so interested to give their decision. So this is something that must be done. And also, many physicians cannot manually take decision, as mentioned before, that also AI is serving to give some results. So there must be a triage system for AI. There must be clinical decision support software to the clinician to have those instruments in their hand. And healthcare organization need also new rules of clinical data analysis, medical information, bioinformatics, etc., that are the need of them is growing fastly. The population connectivity that Professor and Stathis mentioned, people that are in island, in the mountain, etc. So there must be a high quality broadcast coverage, mobile network access, very strict and affordable to everybody. And also the regulation, as you mentioned before, that GDPR, data privacy, cyber security, very important for all those data that can be stolen in any moment. And so we must focus on high impact first, trying to simultaneously cover this continuous care area for many kind of disease, as diabetes, as cardiology, as heart failure, and the public and privacy collaboration also between university, as we have near of us, hospital, startups from France, telecommunication, all those are included to have a framework that will help having this better care of the patients.
Thank you, Kostas. I was thinking while you were talking that it's great that technology is moving so fast, but I'm not sure whether the clinical body is able and the clinicians are able to absorb all these new technologies. And I was also thinking of the point of care in an island, and I was perhaps reflecting on the fact that my Roop device probably has so much data about myself now that I could share with my GP but is my GP ready to absorb all this information? Even if I do transfer all the data to him, is he educated, or is he kind of, does he know what to do with the data that we'll provide? So are we really democratizing healthcare provision, or are we segmenting healthcare a little bit more with new technology, and the people that know more about the health of their health are the ones that are well educated, they have more devices. So will that create a new speed of healthcare provision?
Exactly. They need to be more educated and have tools in their hand, as software tools and bioinformatic, and also as we mentioned, the framework, the connectivity must be stable.
I think Professor Patrinos wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, I'd like to say here, it's about believing what you have in front of you. And it's about awareness. It's this new knowledge that is not on paper anymore, right? So I showed you this card. So this, of course, a fake card because it's not from a true patient. But this card says that if I suffer from leukemia and I should be prescribed with 6-mercaptopurine, I should get the dose down to 90%, okay? So put yourself in the feet, in the shoes of a treating clinician, of an oncologist, when he reads that I should reduce the dose by 90%. He simply wouldn't do it. And still, if he doesn't do it, he will lose the patient from acute myelotoxicity. We had a patient in Patras, when you run the clinical study for psychiatry, that we had the psychotic patient that instead of boosting the dose, we instead reduced the dose to half because that was the guidance. And yet, that particular patient, instead of staying for months in the hospital, he returned to home, fully functional, with no side effects in 20 days. So just make picture of the patient, how much better his life has become, and how much money the system has saved because of the hospitalizations. I'm talking to you, 20 days versus months, okay? So it's about making the clinician aware and make him believe that he or she should implement this new knowledge.
This is more about evidence-based
yes.
clinical...
We have the evidence. We should, it's not research anymore. It's clinical. All we need is to adopt it.
Okay. And believe the data that we have in front of us. So there's a big question about the quality of the data and so on and so forth. I think we need to discuss this. Alexandra, you wanted to mention something.
Yes, I want also to comment. You are fully right. The clinicians must be educated. But also what we have to think is, because it is the geography of our country, to have connection and to create a center of excellence. So a doctor in an island has some information, cannot translate it, to be brave enough and to have the opportunity, also through education, to send it to a center of excellence in order to have the right answer to the result. Because a center of excellence could be easier to educate it first from the data that you just mentioned. So it's something that we have also to change in our mind, that health is not isolated. We have to focus the knowledge to specific centers.
So let's move from the patient to the country. And Alexandra, I think you have the experience of being in a multinational company, of Greece being often treated, and I've seen that in my previous capacity as well. Greece is sometimes treated as a small country and a small market, and people don't realize that it has huge potential to become an innovation hub or a clinical trials hub or a research gateway. And I think we've seen steps towards that direction, but are we there yet? Or what can we do, especially being in this forum, to make sure that we move from the small markets etiquette to something bigger?
Yes, first of all, we have to say that it is very important time point now for Europe, because Europe understands that it is not so competitive like other markets, like US and China. China has boosted the last decade in terms of biotechnology, And this, Greece has to see it as an opportunity to take a more strategic role in the European innovation landscape. So as Europe policy is moving forward to greater competitiveness, stronger health innovation ecosystems, and better translation of research, we have to be there. For Greece, how can we be there? As we can position the country as a regional innovation and clinical research hub in Southeastern Europe. Because we have strengths, and we know that we have strength. We have scientific talents, we have medical expertise, we are in the digital area transformation period, and patient access. So, first of all, we have aligned our national priorities as a country with the Europe priorities, which is biotechnology, AI in health, personalized medicine, data-driven research that was also mentioned, evidence-based, and clinical trials. We have to see the European programs not only as a funding tools, but as platforms to create cross-border collaboration, accelerate scale-up, and attract international investment prioritize. We have discussed in the past a long time about clinical research, clinical trials, etc. We have clinical trials in Greece, late-stage clinical trials, but we have to do more, because as you get expertise and you get better, you can attract earlier clinical trials, earlier stages, and this will lead also to the research. In order to do that, the multinational companies needs, of course, incentives like tax reduces, more stable and more competitive regulatory environment for to have more quicker the access to start a clinical trial. But these incentives can be seen also as an investment in the strategic role that our country can play in future.
Can I continue on this topic with Professor Patrinos? What's the role of Pasteur in this kind of evolution of the country? And I think you do have a strong role to play as we move from, from the small market approach to a more competitive, let's say, country where we do compete on other things, and I think research is one of them. At least, the government wants to, to show that we're moving towards that direction.
Oh, yes, we do. So I couldn't agree more with Alexandra that we should play a regional role, keeping also in mind that other countries practice medicine while we invented medicine. Okay, and we should always remember that. That's something that many people, especially in the Netherlands, hated when I was telling them, but that was the truth. Okay, and sometimes the truth can help. It can hurt. I recall, because we spoke about clinical trials, when I was advising the Maltese government, Malta is it's an island a little bit bigger than Naxos, okay? And yet they have a very strategic advantage because they attract a lot of investments for some reason, because of banking, because of shipping, because of online gaming, for Christ's sake. But anyway, that's another story. Sorry. So we could really focus on the regional excellence for clinical trials by attracting pharmaceutical companies running early stages clinical studies in Greece. We could establish the centers. We have already the plans in mind, and that's what we're thinking of implementing within the Pasteur premises. Also, we should think that clinical trials are not just Caucasians. This is a major thing that comes always up and up more and more in regulatory bodies. It's not just Caucasians, Australians, British, Americans, if such a population structure exists. We should think of Africans, Southeast Asians, Middle Eastern countries, and so on. And we lie at the very strategic location where we should exploit this. For personalized medicine, it comes more and more interesting because of the unique ethnic profile, because the ethnic profile is reflected in our genomes. And the genome of Greece, which the Hellenic Pasteur Institute leads, through my connection also the University of Patras and the Genome of Europe, which is an official partner, gives us an amazing opportunity to try to exploit the genomic structure of Greece in consideration with our huge number of ethnic minorities, to try to explore how this could have an impact on genetic diagnostic, newborn screening in the proper ethical manner, and precision therapeutics.
So I'll continue on this thread because it's really interesting, and I'll come to Stathis. And I was thinking, you don't live in Greece anymore. You live in Italy, and
Yes.
you are the CEO of a multinational company, and you have the ability to look Greece with some distance. And my feeling is that we do have the exceptional scientists, but we do lack something that doesn't allow us to be in the space where we would love to be, in the kind of research excellence, and especially in diagnostics. What do we need to do in order to be able to, as a country, in order to be there and accelerate our kind of our pathway towards a research-driven country?
Oh la la. I feel slightly stressed to answer to this question because I don't want to lose the path of answering this question. First of all, there are some commonalities between Greece and Europe. As Alexandra said, here what we are facing now. I will start from somewhere else, and Ioannis, I will come to your question. What are we facing now? I was reading recently what Mario Draghi said a few years ago. He mentioned that when he was trying to wake up Europe, as Alexandra said, before China to be visible, Mario Draghi said that Europe is a global titan in fundamental research, but is too small in execution. What I would like to share with you, and I would like to combine with my experience with what Professor Patrinos said. I'm working in a company, Biomérieux, that 4 generations ago, Marcel Mérieux was in the team of whom? Of Louis Pasteur. This took place in Europe a few years ago. In Europe, huge innovations. Huge. Okay. The reason why I'm here is because at that time, somewhere in Europe, something happened. Progressively, this core competence that European zone had, faced, and I will come closer to the genome that Professor Patrinos said, it was almost 30 years ago or something like this. I was with someone from this room here, current Professor John Trougakos. Bonjour, John. We were together in the Faculty of Biology, and both of us, what we were doing? We were extracting DNA, the first extractions in Greece. And what we said, now we will save the planet. Now we had a vision, we had a dream. Europe, we were doing this. 30 years later, John Trougakos, professor, he's trying to do this. Me from my side, with my own way, we are trying to do this. What do we need to come closer to your question, Ioannis? What we need here? We need some numbers. Clinical trials in Europe now are the 10% of the global clinical trials. China has 30%, 30. Europe has the 1/3 of China now. Why this is happening in Europe and in Greece? I'm coming here, closer to us. We have an innovation, we have something that is in the kitchen, is trying to be developed. What China is doing? Ladies and gentlemen, China invested in 2 axes, in speed and in cost. They made speed a strategy, as we made the quality the strategy. Here, the challenge now we have is, we have great innovations in our benchtop, but they remain potential. We are not able to deliver them close to the patient. What do we need this to happen? And I'm coming closer to Greece. To eliminate the famous, and you will excuse me because I will use a slightly violent vocabulary, we have a regulatory paralysis. It is a paralysis. Regulatory is a monster now that we have. We are testing our tests. We are not treating the patients, we are testing the tests. In Italy, where I'm located, we have a big R&D center. Is the reality. Ladies and gentlemen, Greece to play a key role. We have to eliminate the regulatory paralysis and, coming closer to the initial saying of Alexandra, market access fragmentation. European zone, 27 different realities. The market is totally fragmented. In Europe could be a big plus and is an opportunity between France and Greece now to break the borders and to start giving an example that we can delete the fragmentation of the market and to have some synergies there to run faster, because at the end, what could happen? We could demonstrate that also quality can deliver with the same speed that China is delivering their solutions. I hope that I gave you an answer,
Absolutely.
but it was a critical question, I think.
You gave us a lot to think about, and I'm sure there will be questions from the audience. I'll give the microphone over to the audience in a few minutes, so be ready. So Kosta, I think we met during the pandemic, and at that point in time, everybody realized, even Europe, despite the paralysis that you described, we were able to pull together a few things. One of them was to be able to do a little bit of population health management in real time. I'm not sure that the lessons learned from the pandemic are applied nowadays, or whether we have forgotten these kind of good old days, despite the fact that the next pandemic is around the corner from what the scientists tell us. Can you give us a little bit of information about where we are right now?
Yeah, I would like to mention exactly what should be the next step for that. The next step should be, firstly, to create a national health data platform.
If you can keep the microphone a little bit closer.
Is to create a national health data platform where the security link will be to electronic health record that we mentioned many times, laboratory results, hospital admission, vaccination record that we had also with the COVID, mortality registry, etc. Also, we mentioned that before, to align with the European health data space. Europe is building this European health data space and to enable secure sharing of health data. And Greece must participate to that, adopting common interoperability standard, ensure data quality and harmonization, and supporting research access to those data. We must also move for reporting to prediction. Before we tell what will happen. Now we must what will happen, not what happened, but what will happen. We must go to that step. Example is, for example, forecasting for influenza and different respiratory disease. Predicting hospital bed demand if some wave of disease came, and detecting regional inequality, especially in Greece with island and mountain, etc. Also establishing a national population health observatory where we should have disease prevalence, health outcome, regional disparity, screening update, etc. Integrating also genomic into public health, as we mentioned many times before, to the genomic surveillance of infectious disease, monitoring antimicrobial resistance. That is a big problem, especially Greece has
Indeed.
the priority
champions.
in Europe. Identifying hereditary disease, as Professor mentioned, with the genomic cards, and also supporting prevention programs for different disease. So we must strengthen real-time surveillance, syndromic surveillance for primary care, pharmacy also dispensing threat, that pharmacy has taken a big part in the COVID pandemic, and invest in data science capacity. We need many different specialists to collaborate together, biostatistic, health informatics, epidemiologists, data engineer, AI specialists, all this together could build a workforce that will increase, and build also a public trust to all those data, GDPR, as I mentioned before, transparency for all those data that are going, and clear rules also to the research that have this access. And as Alexandra mentioned, position in Greece is regional health data hub. Greece could be has several advantages. We have strong institute. Pasteur is one of them. Highly educated personnel, biomedical and technologies, and especially a physician. And we are in a strategic position, Middle East, Balkan, East Mediterranean, etc. So we have the right to become a regional center for this strategy, and this would give us a good success.
Okay, thank you. And I think all.
If I may say, it's not even a minute. In fact, listening to Stathis about regulatory paralysis, and when he mentioned about a political will, I recall my 12.5 years as a Greece national representative at the European Medicines Agency. I often make a metaphor for implementing genome-guided therapeutics like an odyssey. And this includes the journey of Odysseus through Scylla and Charybdis, which is exactly the monster. The monsters, there are actually two monsters. The first is regulatory approval, and the second is health technology assessment. And somehow this has to be expedited if we want these innovative approaches to be made available to everyone, to society.
So in football terms, you gave a pass to everybody to make a last comment about how the Franco-Hellenic cooperation could remove barriers, not just one barrier. Which barriers can we remove in order to scale innovation in health? And can you be concrete about what are these barriers that need to be removed from this cooperation that we have today? To anyone that needs to answer, let's start from Alexandra.
I think a major pain point, as you said, is the regulatory framework, because you can find a lot of administrative barriers in order to have, for example, a private and public collaboration. This is something that blocks the way in order to connect research with the industry and with the private organizations. We have to move on that and to understand the government that in order to scale up, they have to be more open in these collaborations.
Okay. Professor?
So having spent my years in the Hellenic Navy, which has recently been strengthened by the addition of the new frigates and the Rafales, we should, in fact, explore our strong brand name, which is the Hellenic Pasteur Institute, and try to make all these innovative solutions for personalized health and genome-guided therapeutics available to society. So it's not longer from the bench to the bedside, from research to the clinic. It's already in the clinic. What we should ensure is that it moves from the clinic to society. And that's how a big brand like Pasteur should be used as a public, trustworthy institute. So it should be partnered with public hospitals to make these solutions available to the public.
Are you optimistic?
Of course. I represent this theme also as part of my academic hat. So now with my new role of Director General of the Institute, we should realize this. I have 7 years ahead of me. I haven't even started my first term. I have another term. So God willing, I want to make sure that as soon as I finish my term, my 2 terms, these solutions will be readily available to the society.
Excellent. Costa? What are the barriers that can be removed?
One thing that we must do is the collaboration of the academic with the industry, and as I mentioned also before, for the industry to bring to everybody, as Professor mentioned, the reimbursement of different not only devices but also action, as I mentioned, that the interpretation of the result that a physician should give, he must be paid. Otherwise, he will not have a big interest to do that. And this must be taken by the policymaker to give an answer to that.
Reimbursement. Okay, one thing is reimbursement. Stathis?
I'm very happy to answer to this question because it's the moment of wishes and I love it. Yes, I tried to verbalize this wish between France and Greece. And the way that I verbalized it was by creating a bilateral fast-track validation corridor for all these extremely high-value scientific challenges that we are facing. We have here universities, we have Institut Pasteur, we have 2 governments that are committed to generate a value in their collaboration. Both of us, we are part of European Union. It's the moment that European Union seems that is weak. It's the moment to give a strong example that we could have a partnership eliminating. I can give you an example that Professor Patrinos mentioned before about the famous HTAs. In these famous health technology assessments, we have to run HTAs in France and in Greece. Why? Because it is European fragmentation. We could have HTAs common in both countries. Clinical economic evidence studies, clinical studies, everything has to be local. They could be for both countries. We could generate, by acting as an example, to walk the talk, we could create a bilateral fast-track validation corridor, and I'm very confident that all the brains that are in this room, they could feed this corridor with the best way to give a high-value result.
So I'll kind of reverse the question. How can this forum help achieve what you just said?
Can I give a concrete answer?
Sure.
Just after, I will run after Professor Patrinos to see what can we do.
That's really cool.
Professor Trougakos is here. What I mean, here we are. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see how this could happen.
Professor? You'll be chased, so...
It's great. I will be there to catch me. The thing is that in my role as chief editor of the Pharmacogenomics Journal, which is a leading journal in the field, we could perhaps summarize the outcomes of this particular table as an editorial in which all of us could be co-authors. and then we could publicize the results in the scientific community.
Thank you for that.
So this can be
idea.
an
Thank you.
opportunity.
Alexandra, is there something concrete that you would, as a last comment, from this forum, what can we achieve?
There are a lot of things I heard about. You said about HTA. There is change in the law in European Union. We have enforced the HTA European law that started with some medication and will go on. Yes, yeah. The common assessment.
Not in vitro. It started from
medicine.
In medicine.
And in oncology, in specific categories, and will expand. I will insist in private and public collaboration, not only with academia, but also with hospitals. We can leverage ideas that could be win-win situation, both for the industry and for the country. And we must take advantage of that, but we have to change our mindset.
So last word from Kostas, how can this forum help remove some of the barriers? What would you expect as a tangible thing, not wishful thinking?
I believe that Europe must speed off, as Stathis mentioned, because we are very, very growing slowly in comparison, not only with China, but also with America. And as part of MedTech Europe SEIV, we see that the import of in amount of Europe is growing and export is lowering. So we must try to be more flexible, to speed up, as Stathis mentioned, and to have collaboration, and not each one to be localized, but as a union to start up faster and quicker, and especially more realistic.
Yeah, I think speed came across as one of the leading themes. I think if we do write this paper, I think it should be one of the main findings of the discussion today, that we do have the intentions, we do have the scientific personnel, but we are lacking speed, and sometimes the regulatory framework is not there or needs to be improved. We do have some time for questions from the audience, if Matthew is okay. So if there is anybody that wishes to ask the esteemed members of the panel. Yes. If we can give a microphone to this gentleman.
Well, thank you for this fantastic panel. I'm Ioannis Trougakas, professor at the University of Athens and also founder of a spin-off at the University of Athens as well. Stathis, thank you for these kind words. We're studying together, hard studying, but also wild parties, so it's so nice to meet you after so many years. So I'll just like to pass you my experience, because I've been having a huge network in Europe. Bureaucracy is everywhere in Europe, even in France. We do have collaboration with CNRS in CERN, but also Paris 6. And, we're trying to make a collateral agreement with the University of Athens, and it takes time. On the other hand, I'm also working on a project with China, where we are trying to make a branch there as University of Athens. Everything goes very fast, speed, as you said, so this is critical. And, the guys are very hard negotiators. Yeah, it is what it is. Now, I would like to ask Stathis a question about this regulatory paralysis. So, of course, this has to do with the national regulatory bodies. And what would be your suggestion towards, moving in a more United States of Europe condition, like what's happening in the States? Because, the way it's now happening here is that, okay, we're different. I mean, Greeks versus France, or, British or stuff, but also Texans are different as compared to New Yorkers. Yet they have a common regulatory body which guides everything. So what would be your suggestion towards, removing these barriers and moving faster and being competitive in a global scale?
Yes, first of all, Ioannis, John, I think that I'm too small to give a suggestion how to beat the monster. What I want to tell you is that I would like to give you a testimonial. During this, it was February 2020, it was the madness of COVID. People were dying. We were one of the first companies developing some first molecular kits of the planet to manage the critical patients. You remember this period that all of us, we were running as crazy. What I have to tell you is that in the Adriatic cluster where I am managing, we gave our best to take some quantities of these first kits to deliver to our countries here. We succeeded here. Me and Theo Papagrigoris, that is in the first row, my colleague, that we tried to do this. And I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the kits were available to give to the patient, and we delayed 1 month to give them to the market for regulatory issues during this crisis. That's why what I want to tell you is very difficult to give you an answer, because if in this period, with the special worldwide authorizations to liberate new kits much faster from the production, with less tests, because the people were dying, the emergency use authorization, if you remember, the EU, you remember the emergency EUA, this authorization. We delivered the kits 1 month because the regulatory was so strong. Now, Ioannis, to give you an answer, for me, I would say the big brains, they have to understand that private sector, public sector, all of us, each one of us as unit, we are committed to deliver, and they have to create for us a very nice path, a very nice frame, fast and efficient, to decrease the distance with the patient. I know that was not an answer, was not a concrete answer. I'm too small to give you an answer, but I have to tell you that the reality is very tough. To run, to innovate, and then not to deliver to the patient. It was a learning for us.
I thought it was a great answer, so thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience? No? Okay, we're nearly the end. So you'll agree with me that we had a great discussion about public health, about innovation, about democratizing access to treatment and diagnosis. Thank you all for sharing with me your thoughts. I think it was really useful, and thank you again for your kindness to invite us to this forum today. Thank you.